Welcome to Heavy or Not, episode number 87. It's a report about SafeSport in the USA from a number of different coaches. The numbers are startling.
We're diving deep into a massive survey that gives us a real look into the state of coaching. We're going to explore the highs, the lows, and what it all tells us about the future of sports.
Because this survey of over 3,400 coaches immediately hits you with this huge paradox. It's this wild mix of absolute love for the job and just total crushing burnout. So first, let's talk about the good stuff. And it's really good. A whopping 91.9% of coaches, that's more than 9 out of 10, say that coaching has had a positive impact on their lives. They really genuinely love what they do. But then, at the very same time, almost 85% of them say they've felt burned out by their job in just the last 5 years. Loving something that is also completely exhausting you. So what gives? How can both of these things be true? This tells us it's not just about the long hours. There's something deeper happening in the culture of coaching that we really need to get to the bottom of.
To start to unpack this, we've got to look at how coaches feel about the safety culture in their own organizations. Are they being set up to succeed, or are they being put in impossible situations?
Coaches believe their organizations prioritize their athletes' well-being over winning, that's the first bar, but when you ask about their own well-being, oof, that number drops way down. The message feels pretty clear. Take care of the players, but the coaches, they're on their own. And here's another huge disconnect. Check this out. Almost every coach, nearly 96%, is confident they know exactly what to do if an athlete is harmed. But regular, proactive conversations about preventing harm in the first place, only about a half of them are having those. It seems like the system is set up to be reactive, not proactive.
This kind of environment puts coaches in a really difficult position. They're not just mentors. They are also witnesses to some pretty troubling stuff. And way too often, they end up becoming targets themselves.
Almost half of all coaches have seen another coach scream at an athlete in a way that was actually frightening, and about a third have seen coaches call an athlete an insulting name or swear at them for a mistake. That's a tough environment to work in day after day.
And it's not just about what they witness, it's what happens to them directly. Nearly half have been verbally harassed. And where does most of that harassment come from? Well, mostly from parents, and, pretty sadly, from other coaches. So you have to ask, is everyone having the same rough experience? The data is crystal clear on this one. Absolutely not. This burden is not being shared equally at all.
In fact, when you start to break down the numbers by gender, by race, and by disability, you start to see these really troubling gaps. A very different and often much harder reality emerges for certain groups. Let's start with gender. Female coaches are feeling burned out and thinking about quitting at way higher rates than men. And that's not just a number on a page. That's a real loss of talent and perspective from the world of coaching. And the gap gets even wider for coaches with disabilities. They are nearly 3 times more likely to fear that an athlete would actually be punished for reporting abuse. That speaks volumes about their faith in the system to do the right thing.
Look at this breakdown by race. For white coaches, only a very small percentage fear retaliation. But for Asian and Black coaches, that number skyrockets to almost 1 in 4. It's so clear that the trust in a fair and just system just isn't there for everyone.
Now, for all these tough stats, this is not a story without some hope. Because the coaches themselves, the ones right there in the thick of it, they have a playbook for how to make things better. So what do they say needs to change? Their answers are pretty straightforward. Number 1, better leadership and accountability from the top down. Number 2, and this is a huge one, they need real support in dealing with parent behavior. And number 3, more access to training and educational resources.
Let's just double-click on that second point because it's so important. The issue with parents came up over and over and over again in this survey. It was a top reason for burnout, a top reason for quitting, a top challenge to creating a safe environment. It's a massive theme.
And this one quote from a coach in the survey, wow, it just says it all.
Parents and guardians, they created tension, they instilled distrust, and they were worse than children.
It's a pretty stark reminder that building a healthy sports culture isn't just on the coaches. It's on everyone. It's on the organizations, the fans, the parents. Which really leaves us with a big question to chew on. In this whole ecosystem, what role are we playing?
You'll be able to get the full report, a PDF, in the show notes. It's part of a course that the International Swim Coaches is providing, along with Barry Healey of BC Canada, called CYA. It's at read.swimiska.org. So the U.S. Center on SafeSport released a National Coaches Survey report, and this covered a lot of swim coaches, but there were coaches from many other disciplines as well. But the general coaching experiences have positive impact, there's burnout and retention issues, and reasons for leaving the sport. Of course, coaches have high life satisfaction and long-term involvement plans. But the burnout and retention one is what always captures our attention, that 84.6% felt burned out. 64.8% consider quitting, and there's higher rates of burnout and retention among female coaches. And the reasons for leaving, number one is retirement and aging. And I think we got to do a lot more to engage our retired population of coaches. Another reason for lack of organizational support, family needs and challenges with parents are high on the list as well for why one would leave coaching. So in the safety, culture, and reporting, there's organizational perceptions, barriers to safety, and reporting beliefs. Within organizational perceptions, there's comfort-raising safety concerns. There's well-being versus winning priority, and then there's clear reporting guidance. As to barriers for safety, parental lack of understanding, there's organizational mistrust and impractical policies. As to reporting beliefs, the beliefs athletes are supported, fear of retaliation, especially among the Asian and Black coaches, and there's a status of accused as a factor. Yeah, that first you're accused, and then you got to prove your innocence, and boy, that's hard to do after a while. So in abuse prevention and training, there's training participation, which is a plus 90% completion rate. So coaches are crossing the T's and dotting the I's. There's SafeSport core training, and there are higher rates for NGBs that are affiliate. And then in the safety roles, there's athlete safety and safeguarding roles, and then there's a compliance chair, and that's the shield. Harmful behaviors and mistreatments, there are boundary violations, so coaches a target, and coaches as former athletes. So unsolicited hugs, shouting and belittling is a big problem. And then private messaging athletes, some of these boundary violations. So coaches a target, there's verbal harassment, parents and coaches. And then there's identity-based discrimination and sexual harassment. And coaches as former athletes, 42.5% emotional abuse history, and 14.9% there's a physical abuse history. Wow. Okay, future recommendations. We need meaningful, practical education. We need better parental accountability. We need increased financial, emotional support, and trauma-informed training updates. Thanks for your work, SafeSport. We've got a lot to do. The podcast, Heavy or Not, uses characters and many voices within our episodes. And one of the mainstays of the program is artificial intelligence, or AI. Under no circumstances will we use AI to make believe the comments are coming from a real person.
Our new TV show, Heavy or Not, has a deep dive associated podcast too. Stay in touch so we can include your wisdom in these endeavors. Sign up at swimi.org.